Hi, my name is Bhanuprakash. I'm having around 10 plus years of experience in Oracle technology as well as the Java technologies, where I have worked extensively on the Spring as well as the struts and previously servlets JSP. So most of the web technologies on the Java based I have worked. So today we are going to discuss about the Spring security overview. So what is the Spring security about, and what is the advantage of going with the Spring security? Okay, how can you protect your resources and providing the access only to the specific people? All those things we will look into it. First, let me see what is the Spring security about. Spring security is a powerful customization, authentication and access control framework. Okay, and this is part of your Spring framework ecosystem only. It provides a protection for your web application and REST based API. So we are going to see an example on the REST applications. Okay, so the next one is, these are the core concepts: basically authentication, authorization, security context and the filter chain. So basically we need to understand a little bit of what is an authentication. Okay, basically authentication is user identity. Okay, whether the once user gives you the valid credentials like username, password, we are going, that means this is the authenticated user. Okay, if he provides the wrong username in credentials, then it will throw a proper error message. Then authorization is basically determine the right access. That means basically you are authorized to view this particular resource. When I say particular resource, okay, I'm talking more of the, I'm just giving the examples more of the rest. For example, get customer information, get order information, place order. So whether you are authenticate to perform this operations. Security context, basically security context, from the security context holds the authentication details like what is the user information, on all those things you can get it. The next one is a filter chain, where in the Spring security you have a n number of filter chains which are there. We will see more on this, where it provides it's a kind of a similar, people who have worked on the, especially on the servlets, they will be knowing on this, on the security on this filter chains. When we talk about the pre and post, if you want to perform some operation, then typically we go for this filter chain. Similar it is concept. Okay, basic authentication. The basic authentication is basically username and password. Whenever you provide the right username and password, so those will get authenticated, and once the authentication is successful, then only you will be able to access the particular resource. Okay, if you see that it's a simple HTTP authentication mechanism. Okay, and base 64 encoding header, then next configure via Spring security in Spring Boot. So basically the base 64 encoding header you will be sending and all those stuff, and once you send the basic username and password, then you are right to access the particular resource. Then authorization and access control. So role based access control. So when I say role based access control, let me assume that whoever have the admin role can access this particular resource, or whoever have the particular user access. For example, I want to give get order, okay, can access only who has the order role. Okay, and also I can provide read, write or view access. Okay, read or write or update those based on the what is the access I can provide, you can see. Then customer permissions evaluation or fine grade control. Okay, so this is about the authorization and access control. Security configuration chain been replaced with the, previously we used to have this web security configuration security chain have been replaced with web security configuration adapter, Spring security 6 onwards. Okay, the next one is basically HTTP authorized request, CSRF. Okay, session management. When it comes to the session management, you have a variety. For example, you can create a session post login. Okay, the next one is, if you want to protect only one session can be accessed, active session. Multiple sessions I want to control. So those type of session management you can control using this configuration. The next one, the custom authentication. Okay, user details service like password encoder. You can write your own password encoder wherever wherever the password, whenever you are sending, because security reasons you can't give this directly same plain. And if you want to encode the password, you can using, there are various bcrypt, precrypt security, no password. There are n number of no password is, that means the password, it's a plain text it will take, but you can use, typically most of the industrial wide accept is a bcrypt password, and also supports OAuth 2, the OAuth 2 standards, JWT, that is a Java Web Token, where you will get the token, and next LDAP, SAML, etc. Okay, so best practice, always use, as I told, bcrypt password encoder because of the security reasons. Enable CSRF, we will see more on this. Use HTTP in production, HTTPS in production. Always it should be HTTPS is a secure. Prefer JWT or OAuth 2 for the stateless APIs. Okay, nowadays if you see, right, the authorizations, always people are following the standards, either OAuth 2 or the JWT token, OpenID Connect standards for the SSO, etc. Okay, so I have prepared some notes. This is at a high level. Might be we will go through this notes, which will help you better understanding a little bit here. Okay, so why Spring Security? Spring Security protects application from unauthorized user. This is important stuff, where unauthorized users cannot access your resources. Okay, it handles login, logout, password checks, roles security rules automatically. Okay, instead of manually checking user credentials, you can go with the Spring Security, where automatically it checks for the authentication and authorizations. Okay, we will see with a simple example how this authentication and authorization works, as well as the role based also it works. For example, particular resource I want to give access only to the particular role, those how can we configure all those stuff. Then next one is the Spring Security works. Okay, Spring Security use of a chain of filters. As I told previously, there are the n number of filters which out of box it provides. For example, if you want to verify a request comes into the application, filter chain checks authorization, user logs in credentials and authenticated. If valid, get access. If invalid, then you stop it. Okay, and you will be not moving forward. The next one is, what is a authentication? Authentication means who are you? Okay, basically you provide your username, password. That means you are authenticate to access this particular resource. Okay, there are n number of, it can be a LDAP user. LDAP is typically across the organization you will be having, or it can be all your user information can be stored in your database. That means we will be retrieving the user information and validating that user. In memory user. Okay, most of this is it will be a then JWT token, where you will be having in the claims where who is this user, login, user information, etc. OAuth login example, there are a number of third party we have, like basically basic example is, nowadays if you see any of this app or anything, it gives the Google, like if you have already a Gmail account, instead of you creating a new account, you can use the Google. So a request will be passed to the Google, and they will be taking the user consent. Okay, then once user has taken the user consent by entering the username, password, then you can easily access a particular resource. Okay, so the next one is, when user logs in, Spring Security checks username, password, whether a user has provided a proper valid username, password, whether the account is active or not. After success, Spring stores the login in the security context. When the security context, you can get the user information. Authorization, what are allowed to you. Okay, now authentication is basically you are authenticated while passing the username and password. Now what is the authorization? Authorization is whether you have a proper role to authorize the particular resource. For example, if you are an admin, you will be able to access a particular resources. Okay, and if you are an user, only certain resource you will be able to access. As I told previously, for example, if you have a order role, you will be having, let me assume that I have given only the permissions to order the particular get orders, place order, delete and read write, etc. Method level security, you can use the pre-authorize and pass the has role. That means if the user has the admin role, then only he will be able to access. And URL security, it's kind of a protection. That means you are protecting the particular admin and whether who is allowed and everything. Okay. Example, here you can see admin can edit and delete. And let me assume that if you want to give, only the user can get operation. He cannot add a order or delete an order. He can get only the order information by passing the order ID. For those type of things, you can provide the read-only operations. Filter, this is very important. There are n number of filters which are there. We are not going to cover all the filters. A few most popular filters which are used across the Spring security. Basic, the username password authentication filter handles the login. Okay, username password, those stuff. Okay, basic handles the basic authentication, and the next one is the JWT, where you will be handling the JWT handle filter, handles the JWT tokens. Okay, token validations, if you are using any token based validations or a token based authentication, then you can go for the JWT authentication filter, where you can validate the token. Okay, whenever you pass there are n number of validations happens in the JWT. For example, whether if he is passing the JWT token and the signature is matching with or not, using the keys and all those stuff, you can validate those. And password encoding, as I told, there are n number of different encoders, but people will be going mostly on the bcrypt. Okay, bcrypt password encoder, this is a famous which most of the people use in the industry. That converts the password into the secure hashing version before the saving into the database. Access use, URL based security, as I told this. For example, this is the URL. Okay, this URL can be accessed only by this user. If other users are trying to access this admin, then it will throw a proper validations. Okay, and user, this is the particular your endpoint URL, and this one, if it is matching with the user and can be accessed with the user and admin, and which is a permit all, which is a public. Okay, for these which are the URL is matching for this admin and user only. For example, it is a matching with /admin, only who has the admin role can access the particular resource. Okay, and whoever the matching this with this particular URI user, and whoever has this user and admin, he can access this resource. And public, you can give a certain things, you don't want to put some restrictions. Okay, then you can have this permit all. Then method level security, this is typically role based access control, where here you can have it, there is a predefined annotation pre-authorize. That means whoever have this admin role, only he can delete the user, or whoever have the admin roles only can add, delete, suspend, lock, those type of operations. If you want to perform, only admin can do. Apart from the admin, no other should be able to perform. So for those type of operations, you can go for this method level security and pre-authorize. Basic authentication, as I told, basic authentication sends the username password for each request, base 64 encoded. Okay, either it can be the browser or API, you can pass via API. Usually for the backend APIs, internal service, not recommended for public facing. Okay, whenever it's not recommended for the public facing, because it is a basic authentication. Okay, whenever there is an internal where server to server communication is happening, and where you are calling the other APIs, then you can do it. Okay, the next one is custom user detail service. This is important. User can will be authenticate comes from the database. As I told, there is a, let me assume that this is a recommended way where you can pull the information. Might be you can write the controller or a JPA repository where you can pull the data from the user database and can load the user information. Okay, the same thing uses the DB users for login. So these are the some of the basic just information on what is the Spring Security. We will see an example. Okay, we will see a basic example on the Spring Security. Here the first thing is a pom.xml, where you can see that where I have added the dependencies. The version currently I'm using for this demo is 3.2.5, and the next one is the JDK version. I'm using the 17, and here you can see these are the dependencies: Spring Boot Starter Web. The next one is the Spring Boot Starter Security. The next one is Spring Boot Starter AOP, Spring Boot Starter Test. Okay, these are the dependencies which I have ordered in the pom.xml. Then this is the main class to execute our demo. The next one is this is the important one, Spring Security Config, which actually it's a @configuration. And next one is the enables method level security. For each and every method it will apply. Then next the filter chain, okay, auth. The next one is the /public URI, secure URI, which this helps anyone can access the particular resource. Whoever have this endpoint have the this one. The next one is /admin. Whoever have this admin role only can access this particular admin endpoint. And next one is /user endpoint. Okay, whoever has, that means user can also access, as well as the admin, whoever have the admin role can access this particular resource. The next one is the user detail service, where basically currently I'm using the in-memory user detail manager, and here I'm using the bcrypt password. This is the industry accepted, and most of the people use this bcrypt password encoder. Here you see I'm using the encode, particularly admin 123, and who have this particular role, I'm also checking the role. And here also the password, and whoever has this user, you can access this particular resources, public, admin, and those. And here is the user detail service. Okay, the next one is, this is the actual controller. Here this is a typically REST controller, and here I'm giving the /public. This is this anyone can access. There is no restrictions, as only the anyone can access. There is no such restriction, only the user or admin can access. But here you can see /user, this is only access by the user, whoever has the user permissions. And next one is whoever has the admin role. Admin can also access the user and has role pre-authorized. That means it makes sure that whoever have the admin role only can access this particular endpoint /admin. Okay, now let me go and see, just execute it. First I'm trying with the public. Okay, click on the public. Here you can, though I give the admin or I don't give, here you can be able to access. The next one is user. So here for the user, as I told, we have to give the basic authentication applies for the user for this endpoint. So I am giving the user 123. This is the password what we have given, and try to access it. Here you can see user API, okay, who can access. Now same way I'm trying with the admin 123, and click on the send. So they should be, he should also able to access this particular resource. The next one, let me assume that I'm trying to access the admin endpoint or URI, and if you try to give admin and admin 123, because the admin has a permissions, you should able to access the particular. Now let me access with the user, and user 123. So whenever you click on this, here what will happen is it's a forbidden. Okay, That means user credentials are valid, but you are not supposed to access this because you don't have a proper role. You are not supposed to access this particular. That's the reason it's telling forbidden. Okay. Let me assume that I give some invalid credentials and try. You will see the other. You are not authorized to view this resource 401 unauthorized. That means if you are giving the invalid credentials, you are seeing the different type of a error message. Like you are not authorized 401, you are not authorized, but your credentials are valid, but you don't have a permissions to view that particular resource, then you will get a 403 forbidden. Okay. But if let me assume that user is there and admin is trying to access admin 123, he should able to access. Okay, already we have seen, but just once again I'm showing it. So once you see this this thing, so this is a quick and a simple demo about Spring security using just a boot example I have taken, where how we can protect the resource and only valid authorization users can view it. Okay, so this just a quick demo I thought of showing, and yeah, thanks for watching.